That's one of our 5 values is create too good to be true products.
The real question to me was not how much data is in the data warehouse, how much of it is usable, because everything that isn't usable to me was a liability.
Every single brand, and I kid you not, every single smart home company has messed up in the personal data space. I think we're going to get really, really good at spotting truth versus fake. I compared it to like if you go on Reddit, the Redditors will rip you apart if you're not real.
I think it's going to be brand accretive. If you use too much of that, people are going to be like, you're lying to me.
Maintaining the integrity of that as your source of truth for customer data, and you will be so much the more powerful marketer.
Here we go. Thanks for tuning in to the Brilliant Commerce podcast, where I get a chance to sit down with the brightest minds in commerce and unpack the secrets behind some of the industry's iconic and soon to be iconic brands. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by one of those smart thinkers, Logan Dunn, head of e-commerce at Wyze. So Logan, welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thank you. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we've already been warming up here a little bit, and I think this will be a fun conversation. We'll take it in a number of different directions. But before we get there, maybe take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, and just tell the audience a little bit more about like who is Logan and ultimately how you got to Wyze.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so head of e-commerce at Wyze, but before the head of e-commerce, I was the head of growth, and really helped do our subscription growth and get that started at Wyze. And then before that, I was a director of product marketing and, came up with ads and creative and launched products and things. And then before my time at Wyze, I worked in an e-commerce space where we did packaging. It was a company called clearbags.com. And so, we just sold packaging to small businesses. So it really felt like, B to C, even though it was B to small b. I BYU are my roots, got an MBA at BYU. I've worked at Fortune 100, 3M, did some work with Post-it and Scotch brands on their e-commerce stuff. And just had some of my own businesses as well. I did like an e-commerce incubator company when I was in business school and shortly after, where we'd find small companies and try and accelerate them. We even had one make it onto Shark Tank. And we helped the original owner and founder, be on Shark Tank and you do a Kickstarter and all that stuff. So just my whole life I've been really interested in commerce. And so that's kind of how I got led back to e-commerce at Wyze from the direction where I was with helping our subscription growth. And now I lead all of our direct to consumer business for Wyze. And yeah, it's exciting. Every day is exciting.
That's awesome. And I obviously have done my homework. I know a little bit about Wyze. I have been fascinated by the smart home space for more than a decade. Sort of a fun fact, I had an opportunity to meet the founding team at a company called Smart Things back in kind of like 2011, 2012. And you said Kickstarter. I think they were one of the kind of the early movers in IoT and smart things. And they built this really amazing Kickstarter campaign for a product they were releasing called the Smart Things Hub, which was going to be like kind of the brain of your smart home. And then they had all of these devices. And when I was doing my research on Wyze, I was like, I saw these similarities between a company that had a content story, had a hardware product, but was also thinking about services and subscriptions. And, they went on to do great things, sold to Samsung and whatnot. But yeah, I think Wyze is doing things a little bit differently. Maybe you can take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about the origin story of Wyze and it's sort of the unique place it holds in the market.
Yeah, so Wyze was founded by ex-Amazon employees, all of them. There were 4 of them. And they left Amazon and decided to create a smart home company. And kind of what they were doing is they were looking for what seems like a product that is just grossly overpriced that we could do better at. And they had like a unique skill set. My boss, actually, Dave Crosby, he's our CMO and one of the co-founders, and he had his expertise in content creation. He's got like 4.3 million YouTube subscribers, and so he's like busking on the side with this YouTube channel while also building this $1 billion e-commerce, well, not just e-commerce, smart home brand, right? And then the others, like our CEO Yuin, he's like the connector, and was able to find. He had all these contacts over with factories in China and everything, and then our chief product officer, and they just came together and they were like, smart home. This is what is ripe for disruption at the time. 7 years ago, 7.5 years, basically. Smart home cameras were about $200 a piece. Main people in the market were Google and Ring, and that was about it. And then you'd have a bunch of
too. I remember, like, boy, those things were good but expensive, and
yeah, exactly. And so you get them through like an ADT or other places, and they were even starting experimenting with cameras at the time. And so day one, our first camera we launched for $20, and the competition in the market was $200, and the news was like, is this too good to be true? And so we actually adopted, that's one of our 5 values is create too good to be true products. And that's what we've tried to do, is create like an immense amount of value for the price point. And we've just kind of stuck to that. We have other values like being friends with our users, and they actually like air to the Amazon values. And we talk about the Amazon founding values all the time. But yeah, we just want to create, make an affordable smart home. Our slogan was make great technology accessible to everyone.
I love that.
And we recently just have kind of pivoted our brand to never wonder. The idea of like, you don't have to wonder anymore, you can know. And yeah, we're smart home plus subscription business. Main competitors, Ring, Blink, Eufy, among others. So yeah, super competitive space now though, but we were the first. We were the ones who disrupted the space.
Yeah, and then talk about disruption, $200 to $20. I think the brand values piece I was intending to get to later, but I think we just talk about it now. I use the term iconic brands to kick off every episode of the podcast, and to me, that's where I'm most interested. It's obviously like Wyze has disrupted with price, but you're recording data, and this is a product that your users, your customers, are trusting you, and they're putting in their homes. And so, how do you think about communicating those brand values as a marketer, as a way of to acquire customers and to get their trust? And I think that's just super important in this space and in this day and age. So I'd just be so curious to hear your thoughts as a storyteller and marketer, and how that has helped cement your place in the market.
So every single brand, and I kid you not, every single smart home company has messed up in the personal data space, from PII data breach to some sort of like smear on their brand or a leak. It could be people brute force hacking passwords and usernames or whatever. But you can go look for every single company will have negative news press about some sort of data breach. Some are small, some are larger than others, whatever it might be. But and we're no exception to that. And we've had some instances where we lost customer trust with how we handled their data. And on the marketing side, that's not me who was doing the handling of the data. But it's my job to tell the story and to decide, like, how do we recover from this? And of course, it's even more so our CMO, who's this brilliant storyteller, and leader in general. And what we've had to do is we've had to like really focus on privacy and data. Like, we hired a security team almost 2 years ago now, and we do pen testing. We are like rigorous in like conducting tests. We did a bug bounty program. We have a new privacy feature that's launching next month that is basically, in a nutshell, it's end-to-end encryption. We require 2FA. When I say end-to-end encryption, I mean like your videos. And that's, I think, what makes it bigger is like, we're not just like grabbing your email and your name and your address like a normal e-commerce store. we're actually capturing videos of your life in your home, right?
Yeah.
And so that creates an extra burden of trust when it comes to privacy and security. And so, in the last 2 years, I think we've really seen how serious the customers are about privacy and security, and how serious brands who want to do well, um, think about it. And I think Apple, I look to Apple as the gold standard of
Yeah.
honoring privacy and security. But we're trying to take it extra seriously. I mean, from everything I wrote down in some of my notes and prep for the show, like we build most of we use Shopify for our commerce platform right now, and we build most of our stuff like connectors ourselves. We
Yeah.
definitely use Shopify apps, but our apps have to go through the security team for review, especially when they request PII. Um, and they have to fill out like a SaaS checklist questionnaire that talks
Good
about
for
their
you.
privacy, and we're trying to really rebuild this trust with our customers, and make sure that they feel like, okay, I can trust Wyze with this data, from not just like, can outside people get in, but can inside people get in,
Yeah.
making sure that internally they can't come in and access and view your videos, and just being I mean, that's something that we have to take seriously. And I think we've done a good job of taking it seriously. I think we've done a poor job at this point of marketing it. And part of it's um, uh, making sure we have all the pieces to make sure that when we're not just telling a story that's not real, uh, but we're getting ready for this PR push and launch around privacy that showcases what we've done over the past few years to create security and privacy and trust within our customers. So,
Yeah.
or for the brand towards the customer. So it's huge. Customers care deeply about this
Yeah.
in the security space.
And they're getting smarter and smarter all the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's interesting. It's not always the sexiest thing to market. It's difficult to say I'm going to run an acquisition campaign on privacy. Although we saw Apple do it. To your point about them being
Yeah.
the gold standard, like these out of home ads where it was the iPhone and it was like sort of like a vault, and your privacy was in there.
Right.
I think, like, as I think about brand equity and building that trust with the customer, I appreciate the honesty and the transparency. We say, like, we've had our issues in the same way that everyone else has. I as a customer right now, I like doing business with brands that basically use my data in the same way that as a brand, I may want to use that customer's data. Like, I just want sort of like fair play. And I have this expectation that brands are going to screw up. And what I look for most often is how clearly they communicate that, like transparently. We're not trying to sweep this under the rug. Here's what happened. Here's what we learned. Here's how we're going to get better. And so when I hear you all talking about being quite out front in terms of like the investments that we're making, and privacy matters, I think that's really great. And I celebrate the fact that Wyze is thinking that way. Be curious. So that's all first party data. Obviously, you're capturing this video data.
Correct.
As someone who's thinking, I guess, long and hard about marketing too, how do you think about first party data on the sort of acquisition, retention, like retargeting front? Do you apply the same standards over there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I just today, like, ironically, I knew we were having this discussion. It was going to be big about data just based on what Core does, but we we do these data workshops, and it's hosted by our chief of staff. She's awesome. And our data team, and they put together kind of like, here's how to use data at Wyze. And it's not just about it's less about security. I mean, we always address security with it, but it's more about here's how you can actually utilize your data to help you in your job, and to do things like target your customers, other stuff like that. And in that meeting, they just got done telling us that our data warehouse with first party data, not talking about videos, because that's a totally separate
that's
thing.
separate. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just talking about
Customer data.
Customer data, like what you might put into a CDP, right? I'm not uploading videos into a CDP, putting customer data into a CDP, right? From events that what they're doing inside of the app to all this stuff, right? And they just told us today that we have a petabyte of data in our warehouse, in our lake. That's just this, sea of data to wade through, right? And so the problem doesn't become like, can we target our customers? The
Yeah.
problem becomes, how do we target our customers? Just because there's so much. And really, one thing that we've tried to do over the last year, and this has been led by our CEO through our chief of staff, is to create a more data driven organization. I would say, like, as a tech startup, we've always been pretty data driven. But we've been really pushing hard to say, how do we make data more accessible to our employees in a safe way as well? And one of the things that's really cool is we have an AI tool. And this is like a new buzz thing that I actually think every customer or every company will end up having is, what's your AI productivity tool at your company?
Yeah.
So you might have your normal productivity suite, which could be, Teams or Slack combined with Google Drive or Microsoft Office, or, whatever it might be. Like, that's your productivity tools for your company. You might have Asana or, some other task tracking, right? Whatever you have, that's your suite. Well, I guarantee you that we're going to see more and more of this at companies. And that's, what is your AI productivity tool, which is basically like, what's a tool that comes together to like help you access all of your data across all the stuff and do it more quickly, right? Because you've got hosts of files that you're using every day for business. And then you've got, warehouses of data, all of this stuff. And then how you do it responsibly. So we use a tool called Glean.
Yeah.
And then, we're just kind of hooking everything up. But from the security standpoint, before we could hook up any Git repos or any of our Confluence, Atlassian stuff, we had to scour it. Our security team scoured it for any keys, private or public, making sure that nothing is there, so that this AI can't go in and go through documents and see these keys and stuff. But to me, like, that's something that's really cool. And it gets even more cool when you start hooking it up to your customer data pipeline. Because, like, SQL, this is the crazy thing. It's like SQL has for the longest time been how you're accessing your data, right? You're blending your tables, doing everything, getting it right. But, like, I believe one of the big things, and this is for marketers, right? Because if you start thinking, if you're a data professional, you're like, I have no problem with SQL. SQL is great. I can do this forever. But if you're a marketing professional and you're looking at, how do I access and use my data? This is one of the big changes we're going to see with the advent of generative AI, is you're going to see these productivity tools that are accessing data for, and you already see it with Tableau, and they've got an AI assistant. And I think actually those are the more cool AI assistants, are the ones that are understanding data. But I've seen some really cool stuff already. Like, we've built a little inventory module, so we can just like search product SKUs. And the Gen AI, we don't have to go to this table for that or this table for that or whatever. It just searches through our database of everything to tell us, here's the DIMs, here's the quantity right now. Like, we've got our whole inventory pipeline hooked up to this AI tool now. And we're hooking up our sales pipeline to it. And then pretty soon we're going to have forecasting tools hooked up to it. And so that's where the cool stuff happens with the data. But, with the generative AI, that's like the fun stuff to talk about. We could spend all day talking about it, but we still have your fundamental basics, like this huge lake. We have our Kafka tool, right? That's converting it into our downstream things as is. We build our cohorts out of it. We've got machine learning on top of it with propensity models that are helping us determine, based on all of these thousands of actions a customer's taking, which customer groups are they like? Are they ready for subscription? Are they not? And so, I mean, we're doing as much as we can. The question is not, what do we do? It's like, there's too much to do. So it is, I guess.
Where do you start?
Where do we start?
Where are the high leverage things that you can, what are those key insights that you can act on that move the business in the right direction? And it's funny, you said like a petabyte of data, and you and I were kind of joking about point solutions, or the proliferation of point solutions in a kind of the modern tech stack. I remember, it must have been a decade ago when data lakes and data warehouses were starting to become popular in commerce. I used to be talking with other sort of technology commerce leaders that I knew, and it was almost this competition about who had more data in the data warehouse. Like, do you know how many rows I have, and how big it was? I was like, and I used to find it funny, because the real question to me was, not how much data is in the data warehouse, how much of it is
Correct.
usable, because everything that isn't usable to me was a liability. I'd rather not have it. And one of the things that I'm really excited about today, and not to talk too much about Cord, but we bring all of a brand's data together in one place, and we keep it secure, and we organize it. We make it ready for, I haven't seen Glean before, but I'm going to check it out. But there's an awful lot of similarities with the approach that we advocate for. So we're working on a Copilot like a lot of folks are. The reason I think our Copilot is really exciting is because it has access to all of this data, and it's really neatly organized. And so
if you want to control generative AI, you have to have it like more data, because that's where the AI is powerful, is making sense of tons of a petabyte of data. And so that you're exactly right about the problem. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just get so excited about this, because that is the problem. Is it is a liability with all of this, because I guarantee you there's so much duplicate data in there as well, because it's just in this view or that view or whatever, but it's a whole, copy of another table doing this thing, and so that's where you have an advantage over, like you say, a Copilot assistant inside of just say Teams with their, literally branded Copilot, right? Is they are limited in scope to what someone who's built on a CDP or, and then your challenges, of course, is like, how do I get the whole pie, not just like a sliver of what the marketers want?
Well, and that's why we're more than a CDP. Like we figured out that it can't just be the CDP data. We need more data in order to be able to deliver value. But then also, how do we make sure that we have the connected tissue out? So if we say, everyone loves to say AI, but then, a close second to that in terms of buzzworthy terms is these agentic workflows. And I think an awful lot about, I don't just want an agent that can help me make sense of data. I want an agent that I can ask to perform tasks on my behalf. And that's what we've been working really hard on at Cord. And, you brought up Tableau, and they've got now this chat interface, and so do most of the BI tools. But all of that, the value that can deliver presupposes that the data that you have in your data warehouse is not a liability. It is organized and of high quality.
Yeah, which
and
of
I wish
course
more
it's
people
not.
were talking about that. Yes.
Yeah. There's no one. In fact, I put that. Let me see. What did I say? You said, you asked a question that was like, I can't even remember. Oh, yeah. You said many brands struggle with complexity. What's the key to making brilliant commerce feel effortless? And the thing I wrote was, know that you're not the only one struggling. Have patience with yourself, because some might look like they have everything in order, which, I mean, is so true. If you just think about, you're like, my house is in order, you're talking about your neighbor versus another, you versus a neighbor or something, right? But really everyone is in chaos, because data is proliferating at a pace that we cannot keep up with. And no one is good at it. Like they'll say like, we're good at this or that, but for every good thing that they do, there's still a hot mess somewhere else, because you just can't do it all. And that's really where this generative AI, I think, is going to be so powerful. But I also just wanted to add that where I see generative AI right now is, let's look at Tesla for a second and just go to like this level 1 through 5 of self-driving vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So Tesla kind of came in and invented like this level 2 and 3 self-driving automation, right? Whereas like level 1 is like adaptive cruise control.
Yep.
And then where Teslas are at like right now is level 3, which is like you can put in a destination and it'll get you there, right? Which is pretty advanced and still not widely adopted. Yeah, mostly. Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Depends how brave you are.
Yeah, correct. So to me, we still have a level 4 and level 5, right? Level 5 being like no one drives anymore. Like your car, you just get in, the seats are facing each other, and you just tell it where to go, and it gets you there, right? And we're a long way still from that, but we're making rapid strides. Now, if I go to that with like this idea of how we use generative AI tools, we're like at like the level 1 or level 2 automation for generative AI. And when I say that, it's because no one can really break out of interacting with AI through a chat interface.
Yeah.
And when generative AI becomes really powerful on all of this data is when it's doing things for you.
Yes.
And it's presenting you with insights without you asking. And when it's running processes and things that are actually useful and not just like you interacting with it through a chat prompt. And that's why, like, when we began, I think before you started recording, we were talking about like this idea of, I would love to build a commerce platform on top of AI rather than the commerce platform with AI on top of it. Because imagine if you're like the AI serves the page to the customer to take the credit card, the billing, all of this stuff. And then what ends up happening is it goes, and then the AI processes your payment, because it's connected to, payment processor like Stripe or something like that. And then the AI then generates an email on the fly and sends an email. And hey, guess what? I know, because I've got this customer, the CDP, customer data platform, full of info about what you've bought and stuff in the past. And I already know my product models and what's frequently bought together and all that. And I'm just going to build that on the fly with the email. I think that that's when we start getting really cool commerce automation. We got to get out of that chat to interact with generative AI.
Yes.
But we will. And it's coming for sure.
I'm excited to show you what we're working on. There's two things that I want to make sure that we cover based on some of the stuff you've said. I don't even know where to start, but we're gonna stay on this autopilot thread because I think you're onto something here. I hear you talk about that. I see the excitement in your voice, and as a technologist, like, yeah, that's super cool. Like, I'd love to figure that out. The brand purist in me, or the consumer, I should say, I want to still shop. And so I look at it as, I live like an hour outside of Los Angeles. And I have to go to Los Angeles sometimes. And it is a huge pain in the ass. Those are the times where I'm like, give me the level 4 or level 5. I don't even want to think about it. I want to close my eyes and I just want to be there. But then there's other times where, like, I love to drive. I enjoy driving. I don't want anyone to drive for me. I want to drive myself. And I think my belief is that we're going to see this sort of bifurcation in shopping where I'll be fine with an agent doing some of the stuff for me for things like commodities that I know I need. But that should leave me more time to discover brands that I love. And that's where I want to have my hands on the wheel. So I just would love your point of view on that. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm crazy?
Oh, 100%. No, I completely agree. Because we're missing this whole side of commerce right now, which is like, I mean, I'm a marketer by trade. Like, that's what I'm trained in. That's where my career's mostly been in, even as like head of e-commerce. Like, I own the direct to consumer profit and loss statement, and am determining like all things, from sales generation to cost cutting, right?
Yep.
And the AI thing, though, is on this like operational back half, in my opinion. Like, I agree that there's this marketing solution side, like sending email and putting the products in. To me, that's still like operational marketing.
Yeah.
But we're missing this whole other huge trend in commerce right now, which is this growth in social commerce. I mean, it's only days away before TikTok is going to be bought, sold, closed down,
who knows,
exploded. Yeah. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
And so like, but there's no changing. Like, one of your questions asked about trends in commerce, and you said, what trend is going to stick? And I really truly think, and I've been drinking the Kool-Aid from my CEO. Part of this is his opinion that's become my opinion. But I really think social commerce is coming. And I think that we have a few hurdles to overcome in the US economy before it can be as big as outside of the US. We have payment hurdles and other things that are causing issues. But generative AI, we're seeing a lot of fake content come out too.
Yes.
But I actually wrote this in as I was preparing for this interview or this podcast, that I think we're going to get really, really good at spotting truth versus fake. I compared it to like, if you go on Reddit, and like the Redditors will rip you apart if you're not real.
I think it's going to be brand accretive. That if you use too much of that, people are going to be like, you're lying to me. Like, I want a real marketer that knows me and like I actually loves telling stories. Like, So sorry.
So that's the whole
I agree
side.
with you.
No. This is what you're talking about, the bifurcation, right? So you've got your AI doing these tasks that need to get done. That there's marketing involved in that, sure, and there's
block and tackling stuff I don't necessarily need to do. Yep.
Yeah, stuff that's still good and that customers expect, right? You want it to get you the milk and eggs, so to speak, right? Yep. The stuff you're going to get. But over here, you've got to have real, like, creative, awesome ways of interacting with the customers. And the things that are exploding right now is the social commerce, right? So that's what I think is really here to stay, social commerce. Is coming fast and is like a real trend, I should say, that I think is going to stick around. But we also have those fundamentals of just like a really solid brand message and sticking up for what's important to your customer base.
Yes.
One of the challenges I think we are facing at Wyze is we came in with a 10% cost or 10% price to consumers of what the market was, right? We were $20 or $200. And that was our value prop. It's like same tech, way better price. And they were like, we don't even know how to get down there. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
It's a bloodbath in the sub $50 camera market now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like not even a red ocean. It's just the straight blood ocean. And what's happening is we have to sit here and say, well, what's our actual value proposition? And we have to make sure that we're being more clear, because we can't just be value is our value proposition.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why we're trying to beef up our privacy and security standards, creating this end-to-end encryption of all your videos. So only you as a user for sure who's authenticated. And every time you look, it's authenticated again with a new key, all of that stuff. Because like that's a part of it. A part of it is, really making sure that you're creating tools from a software perspective that are reaching out to your customers. Like we've created these descriptive alerts where it describes to you using the Gemini right now model to tell you what it's actually seeing. And it's crazy. It's getting so good. But, getting rid of notifications. So it's really good. Like, what is your actual value prop that you're trying to add to your customers? Like that is foundational to marketing and to commerce. And that creates your love group. And then you've got to just foster and nurture that love group like crazy. Like none of that will change. And that's where that bifurcation will happen. Like you've got to have that. I think we're seeing it more and more with influencers helping accelerate getting your message out and creating trust in a fast way and people buying on these social platforms. But that will always have to exist.
Yep, I agree. I think that's a great take. And so we only have a couple minutes left. I really want to get your take on this. I love when you said this idea of too good to be true. Let's create too good to be true products. And I don't know about you, but the first time I used Gen AI, when it was really starting to get developed, it felt too good to be true. It kind of reminds me of sort of 10 years ago, and I've been on the soapbox before, but acquiring customers on Meta, or at the time, Facebook, felt too good to be true. Yeah, and we kind of saw what happened there. We gave them a lot of data that became kind of weaponized. I'm on the record of saying I'm a little bit worried that the same thing happens here. You're sitting on so much data. We talked about it, a petabyte of data. How are you thinking about transforming that data or keeping that data safe so that it isn't too good to be true, that you can get the most out of models like Gemini or what OpenAI is going to make available, but without giving them all your data? Is that something that you and the team are working on?
Yes. And we have two sides of data, right? We have the CDP, but we also have a lot of insights that we can garner from, all of these videos that are being captured. Yeah. Right? We don't sell any of those. But there's a ton of like video captured data that we can gain insights from and train our AI models on. And that's worth a ton of money, right? But I kind of want to go back to something that, like, having been in the Shopify space, now we've been at Shopify about 3 years now, a little over 3 years. We were on Magento 2 before that, but I am just shocked at how crazy easy it is for you to just give away your customers' data. I mean, It is scary. Like if you think of how big Shopify is. Well, every single app comes in and it's just like Shopify limits their liability to this because they show you a warning that says, hey, you're giving access to this app to access your customer list. So your products do, right? And seeing your products and all that's fine. That's public stuff for the most part, right? Yep. But access your customer list, like shipping addresses, email, phone, that's not public. It's PII, right? Yep. And so many people, especially in these small businesses, right? They are just hitting approve. And I've seen Shopify sites, like really small sites that have hundreds of apps. Yeah. All of which that are given this access to this customer data. So this is a real problem. How are we like not just giving our customers data away? You're not selling it, right? I mean, so technically your privacy policy is I guess accurate. And but it's just scary. And that's why we were like, our security team's like, no, you can't even do those without going through a security check, checking like the security and safety of what they're offering for their data. And why most of the time we're like, we're going to actually build that ourselves. So, I do kind of love the original core idea of what this idea of headless commerce and built on your CDP, because what you're doing is you're keeping more things in a central area. So you're not needing to go like proliferate with applications, all of your customers' data everywhere, right?
Well, we really believe in this idea of build then buy. Like there's so much tension. And I know you're kind of on the record about simplifying technology stacks. And I love all this. Like you and I could talk for another 2 hours, but I believe that more brands win when they can buy a platform that they can build around. And then there's parts where you don't have to become a full-fledged technology company. Wyze for sure is, and it makes perfect sense that you are. So you have engineering talent, but how do you strike that right balance between speed to market, innovation, the investments that you're making, security? I mean, this has been a big eye-opener for me, how Wyze really thinks about whether it's customer data privacy or really, I mean, I guess all of your data is customer data. And that's a first-class citizen within your organization makes me feel really good about the way that you're building product and shipping services out into the world.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, there's so many different like ways we could go and continue this conversation. But I mean, one of the big things when it comes to this and like using the most of your resources is I would just start really early thinking about like building to scale.
Yeah.
So and I think the biggest thing is with customer data. And I truly mean this because I've had so many headaches. Like one big learning thing I've had in my journey of being a marketer is I hate when my customer data, like this point of like this source of truth for this customer data is over here and this source of truth is over here. And it's almost unavoidable, right? Because like your email system has your email and this, but that's why we've pulled back into just like a lake. And I wish we would have done this from day one, is just had one location, one table that is our source of truth for our entire company, for everything about your customers, which you're like, yeah, like a CDP, right? Yes, but it's really hard to bolt on a CDP after your company's been established and make it the central source of truth, because you've got all of these teams doing this thing with their databases here and there. But I just wish, like, if I could like go back to, early day Logan at Wyze, I would just shake him and say, get like a central location right now for all of your customer data. And I would say, just put it in a table in Snowflake or something, for right now, and make everyone put this here and focus on like, don't proceed down this lane without making sure you can link its identities back to there so that it can access that central location and write to that central location. It's just, I mean, you can just do so much more if you're putting together all of it in one place and you're starting really early with that foundational piece. I can't tell you how much I've had to do identity resolution between Shopify IDs and Braze IDs and all of these different IDs everywhere, right? I mean, email is no longer a source of truth for the customer, so you've got to figure out like, how do you stitch it all together, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that to me has been like that. If you're looking for the easiest win of all to executing on your customer data, it's that. It's
have a single source of truth.
Single source of truth it, because it's so much easier to go out and like, create a cohort, analyze your cohort, and especially with AI, because bolting on the AI on top of it, like, and that's why I'm like, you're going to see an AI productivity tool coming to every organization, because what that tool is going to do is going to hook into all your data sources. Yeah. And then your AI is going to be your access. But early on, especially, because those are going to be expensive, especially early on. But early on, the best you can do is just get it together in a single source of truth and just religiously, zealotly focus on maintaining the integrity of that as your source of truth for customer data. And you will be so much the more powerful marketer.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who knows me knows I can't resist a good pun. And those are exceptionally wise words, I think, to leave this episode on. Invest early, invest often in a single source of truth. And if you are a company that's 7 years old, pretend it's day zero and do that. Because in order to take advantage, in order to have the level of excitement that clearly we see Logan has for AI, AI is only as good as the data that you can give it. And you're really holding yourself back if that data lives across 100 different systems. So investing in that single source of truth, knowing where to go, gives you, I think, optionality as we figure out where the real value is going to lie in AI. So this has been an amazing conversation, sort of as promised. Logan, I already want to invite you back for version 2 and version 3.
I'd love to. I could talk about this all the time. So
cool. Well, I will wrap us up there so we have more to talk about next time. Thanks for being on the pod and looking forward to keeping it going.